Delegates, allow me to pick up from where Efa has left. And in the interest of time, I will just take us through the slides without much explanation. I will guide the members to check the full reports which are available online. So I'll allow the media team to scan through the slides kindly within 3 minutes at most, or 2 minutes. So as F has mentioned, NEC has been implementing similar studies from 2010 all through on behalf of the Ministry of Education to inform policy. And the impact has been noted across the years. We have had these reports being used for informing policy reforms across the years that similar studies have been implemented. And we have had interventions in the Ministry of Education through donor support, and of course with the government of Kenya. These interventions have been guided by the findings from the NASIMLA studies. And the current study that is being implemented, known as KPIL, Kenya Primary Education Equity in Learning, relied on results of NASIMLA report 2018, and it is the one that is currently being implemented and is expected to end in around 2028. In terms of achievement, these reports presents the findings for key learning areas, that is English and mathematics at grade 3. And the findings have been notable in terms of the performance across the different levels and by gender, because the international reporting requires that we have disaggregated reporting, and one critical element is by gender, that is by performance among girls and boys, so that we have targeted interventions. So the performance have been above average, slightly above average at on a mean score of 16.5, for example, and 17.3 among girls and boys for this particular study that was done. Let's move to the next slide, please, so that we look at the next performance. That is in mathematics. Again, it has been about average in terms of mean scores with a maximum of 30 marks, 17.3% on average at the national level. Next slide. While reviewing the performance, again, the critical analysis that we do is to make sure that we check whether there is any significant difference between the gender, and that has been noted in English, but mathematics has been fairly at par in terms of performance. Next slide. The analysis of the report, this report presents performance per content area so that you have, again, focused intervention. You don't want to just say English activities in general, but you want to say which are these critical areas that learners need support, which are these critical areas that they are doing well in different areas. Next slide. Okay, this study also has a unique component where we also assess learners with special needs. Previous studies, 2010, 2011, all through, we have excluded learners with special needs. But this study that was released recently focuses on learners with special needs so that you target also interventions in that area. Next slide. The next one is on assessment for minimum proficiency levels, which Kenya has implemented alongside other countries. And this is for reporting SDG 4.11 A reporting, that is assessment at end of lower primary, which is the international commitment that Kenya has subscribed to. And the studies that have been done, the most recent was done in 2025, and the report is available and has been released. And the proportion of learners attaining minimum proficiencies by gender, again, is critical for reporting to the at the international level. Now, let's go to the last slide so that we have a recap of all the discussions that we have had, right from the census that Mr. Gidenji presented to where we have the sample-based assessments. So the shift that this presentation calls to is a shift from measurement to diagnosis so that we have critical reporting of performance and also recommending critical intervention areas. And then from focusing on equity also, as has already been presented in terms of by gender, among other areas of inequities. In terms of location, we noted in the first report that learners in ASAL areas have not meeting the expectations, so there's need to have focused interventions as has been the case. The third shift is shifting from reports to policy. We are aware that we have generated reports across the years, but we need to make sure that they are implemented and actionable. And similar studies have been used during county dialogues where counties develop their customized interventions at the local level, county, sub-county level. And lastly, from performance to readiness. Are our learners ready to face the future? And that is anchored in our theme for this symposium. Thank you very much for your attention. God bless.
Makofi ingine kwa Kipchirchir, Efa, and Gidinji. Bwana Wasanga, you see now the baby has matured into a key action research and policy actor. Asanteni sana. So, to save on time, I welcome Dr. Jenny from the National Foundation for Educational Research to give us the insights. Thank you. Welcome, madam.
Jumbo? Okay, so that means you can understand probably the only Kiswahili that I know. I try to improve a little bit every time myself. This is my third. Okay. Okay, so I should say it again. Jumbo. Asante sana. Okay, this is, I'm very honored to participate in this symposium the third time. So thank you very much for all the NEC colleagues' invitation to this very, very significant event. So my presentation will be about a journey that the National Foundation for Educational Research has gone through with NEC over the past few years. So my name is Jenny Xie. I am a research director at the National Foundation for Educational Research, UK. I think it was in 2024, we had a really pleasant meeting from the CEO to the UK and to our organization, where he shared his vision of the Education Resource Center, and then really inspired our team. And building on this vision that Davey had, we collaborate on the grant application supported by the FCDO in order to support a small part of the Education Assessment Resource Center. So I'll be talking a little bit more about it and related to the overall theme of the conference. So if you don't already know the Educational Assessment Resource Center, which you will hopefully have an opportunity to see later in the day, it's an initiative led by NEC, and the idea is completely coming from NEC. So it's not a donor-driven or partner-driven initiative, but it's a national and regional initiative. It's within NEC, a very nice part of NEC, and it has 25 permanent staff and probably a bit more now, but working very closely with the rest of NEC in supporting different activities under NEC. The ambition of it is to be an assessment resource hub that promotes assessment and use of good assessment and assessment data, and brings together assessment resources that's already available and raise awareness on regional, national, and international agenda that's relevant for Kenya and beyond, and then focus a lot on experience sharing so that good assessment practice can be learned through real life context and on something that's already being trialed and understood. So under the FCDO Data for Foundational Learning grant, the NEC and NFER collaboration involves some skill building and knowledge exchange. So we learn a lot from NEC through this journey as well. Co-construction of a lot of context-relevant materials that are understandable by users and not just developed somewhere else quite far away from the region. It also built a bank of resources that users can utilize and will sit within EARC beyond the project. And we also use the grant to let people know about what EARC is about. So at the moment in India, for example, there's a South-to-South Data Foundational Learning Exchange Conference, which EARC would also be talked about and shared by participants there. There's a lot of promotion activities under the grant, and then opportunity for NEC colleagues to speak about this really exciting offer that it can bring to the region and to the country and beyond. And additionally, there is this sustainable piece, which we'll talk about more, but supported a lot by the other partner, British Council. Okay, so what EARC offers, the main offer under the grant, but do remember EARC offers a lot more than just this. So do ask NEC colleague for what else is offered. But under the grant, it aims to provide some tailored assessment training program that's built for different part of assessment stakeholder, so which would include some signature assessment leadership program to help assessment decision makers to make informed decisions on assessment, so that lessons are not learned in a very expensive way, so that assessment data can be utilized appropriately. So this would include lessons like what Eva just spoke about, the PISA journey, the school-based assessment journey, and all the innovative idea on e-learning and e-assessment that NEC already try out themselves. So they will be able to share that in their own way and through a very meaningful experience. So all these, they will be able, ERC also aims to provide contextual relevant assessment solution. So it's not like more like a global north solution that might not be so fit for the purpose for the context. And quite importantly, it should become a hub for national, regional, and international stakeholders to share assessment development and innovations. For example, ideas like the AI, which EARC is already, and NEC is already embarking, and Kenya is apparently using a lot. I just learned today, ChatGPT is most used in Kenya. I will definitely remember that. So under these, you will see now, you can't see because they're quite small, but basically these are the different tailored course for different levels, assessment users and assessment stakeholder. So as an assessment leader or policymaker or ministry officials, you can come be part of a program for a day or two and really discuss about what are the decisions that you're facing in assessment. Think about the cost implication in all this decision making, and then be able to make informed choices that already tells you what can happen and what are, for example, the resource plan and how you can use the data down the line. We will have 2 demo taster sessions in day 2 and day 3 of the symposium. And I know NEC colleagues have already invited a few participants to join that. But ultimately, NEC will be offering it more broadly and widely across the country and the region and beyond. So I don't have too many slides, but I want to emphasize on the sustainability piece in this practice, which is, I think for development partner, especially at this very critical time, an idea people really welcome and is quite different from some of the other work. So it's initiative, as we said, is initiated by the country, by a national organization. It really involves agencies and organizations that are critical to data and assessment and use of data. Examination board, for example, around the world plays a very critical role in this, and they need to be brought into this discussion. So it's a center initiative that leverages existing knowledge, network, and community that NAC has. So it's not utilizing the resource to do this in a quite expensive way. And then the other part is making sure that regional and national technical capacity is being utilized and is being built in a sustainable way, so they become less reliant of this kind of global north flying in and out consultancy pattern. And also, whatever it offers aligns with the activity that the nation and the region is really interested in. So while some of the countries, probably in the global north, are still a bit more conservative about AI or use of technology, Kenya is already embracing it. So this could become an experience sharing point that other people and other regions or other countries would be really interested in. So it's with very much of this kind of sustainability piece in mind that NEC and ERC built its program and consider how it can be attracting potential users in the future. Next slide. So there's a bit of a moving pieces there, but what we want to emphasize is that I know a lot of the discussion today is about reporting, but as all the assessment developer and then the assessment specialist in this room knows, in order to report accurately, you need to be making the right decision from the start. And that right decision will be leading your development and implementation throughout in order to support accurate reporting so that you can use the data accurately in order to ensure that it's practical and useful in the classroom. So the shift is to move from focusing on assessment and data at the reporting stage to, if you click again, to this policy choice side. So one of ERC's co-offer is to ensure that, not just focusing on the reporting piece or the item and test development piece, but also to ensure that, I think for a lot of the leadership in this room, that assessment decision is a very critical one. So for example, if you take part in international large-scale assessment, the cost of it and the continuity of it should be taken into account from the start. And it is probably not something you can take on and then drop after one or two cycles in order to see it effective. If it's useful, you should continue a few times. Or maybe some international assessment might not be as useful for the context. Okay, next slide. I would like to use a little bit of example piece to illustrate how ERC can be used beyond the national and regional initiative, but covers also a little bit of the international agenda nowadays in order to conclude my session. So everybody in this room, I think, have been very aware of the foundational learning initiative and data for foundational learning reporting. I know there were just an event at Mombasa and also events around the world that talks about how important foundational learning is as a building block for many things and how important it is to report foundational learning data accurately. We see EARC as playing a very critical role in promoting accurate use of foundational learning data. And these are, I won't read it out, but you do take your time to read these slides if you have a bit of time later. But it really consists in a very critical role in ensuring that government or assessment decision makers make the right decision on what assessment to go for in order to report accurately. It can support assessment developers and implementers on how to align with that good assessment practice that ultimately the data will, or the implementation will be judged upon. It will be able to inform how accurate reporting could look like and what sort of information is useful for the stakeholders so that reporting can be done in a useful way and not just sitting there for readers that are not so relevant to the actual teaching and learning context. And then it can really motivate good learning assessment practice overall and have a longer lasting impact so that data foundational learning becomes a good practice as a cycle and not just go with a come and go as project come and go. Next slide. I think most of the people would have also heard about SDG 4.1.1, which is related to this data for foundational learning concept. One of the things that countries are finding it extremely difficult and why SDG 4.1.1a has been downgraded is because there's a lack of foundational learning data. It's become a crisis very much talked about, I think, in the international development partners world and being one of the critical agenda people really want to address. If you can move to the last slide. Again, you won't be able to see this slide very clearly. This is a guideline from the UNESCO Institute of Statistics on how countries can consider to report to SDG 4.1.1, A or B or C. A relates to the foundational learning data we spoke about, and quite a lot of the things that Kenya is already doing, and what we know a lot of countries in the region and beyond the region now aspire to. Sorry, you can't see the flow chart clearly, but basically it talks about the assessment choices that you can undertake. But actually, has any of you seen this chart? This is a UNESCO publicly available decision-making chart. Raise your hand if you are aware of this information. I know Anne, and then, some of the people, and then Effa and Musa, because you're very much part of that discussion. But I think it's about 1% of this room with all the assessment stakeholders. It's public available, but not transparent and not publicly available enough. But through a center like EARC, they can make it easier to understand in a language that people can embrace and can relate, so that these are simple decisions that can be translated into something more meaningful already at the decision-making stage, so people would know in order for the countries to report to SDG 4.1.1, if the countries want to, the right decision is made from the start and not at the end, the reporting stage. And this actually would reduce a lot of resource waste, and it will make the reporting a lot more meaningful. So ERC can really play this kind of really critical role and solve a lot of the solution when it's utilized to its max. So for development partners or anybody engaged in the, this part of the discussion, I hope this is something that you will be able to share in your community. One last slide, but you do have to move back to the previous one. Yeah. Again, these are some of the key issues that ERC can help to tackle. It's not hard, but we just need a channel to be able to discuss and then share with the right community. So with that note, I encourage you to see the establishment of ERC in NEC, and then if you're able to join some of the taster session, and hopefully in the future you will have the opportunity to use this assessment hub and very meaningful space to broaden this assessment discussion. Thank you very much, and once again, NFR is really honored to be part of this journey. Thank you.
Makofi ya Dr. Jenny tena. Thank you, Dr. Jenny, a very reliable partner. We thank you for your support in systems strengthening and amplifying ERC's mission on foundational data learning and data analytics. Next, I will call upon a very unique NEC flagship on data-driven intelligence and greening assessment. This one space NEC has shown leadership also. Karibu, Catherine.
Good afternoon, everyone. Riding on the protocols that have already been observed, my name is Catherine, and I'm presenting to you. I have my colleagues, Petronila and James Lochomin. In the interest of time, I'm presenting to you our presentation on reimagining curriculum pedagogy and assessment for curriculum innovative and future-ready learning. Our sub-theme was data-driven assessment for curriculum improvement and evidence-based policy. And our title is From Scores to Intelligence. That is NEC's Greening Assessment Ecosystem for Teacher Education. So I think you are projected already. Okay. So this is the context of the presentation. I will not be taking much of your time on some of the issues that we've covered here, but we'll be giving you the insights on some of the issues. So the presentation will be covering the context and the rationale. That is why we are greening assessments. Our problem statements is on limitations of the traditional assessments. And then the NEC ecosystem, just taking you through the architecture from the start, that is registration, to the certification. Then again, how it works, the scores to intelligence with some sample reports. Then we'll be giving you some key findings and the impact, as well as challenges and enablers towards a seamless ecosystem. Then we'll be having the recommendations, and we normally don't have a conclusion because every research is the beginning of another research, so we'll just be taking through that. So why are we greening assessments? Just as my previous presenters have highlighted, the global movement is worldwide, and it is a shift from paper-based assessments to that are resource intensive to sustainable digital first approaches that reduce environmental footprint while improving quality. This is again because of the paper problem, whereby we have millions of printing of papers when we are undertaking the traditional assessments. So it is also in line with the digital transformation, which is e-assessment, which re-engineers the assessment's life cycle to a secure end-to-end digital workflow from the item development all through registration, administration, marking, as well as certification, transforming the traditional processes into intelligent, integrated, and data-driven systems, which enhances efficiency, and it is also cost-saving. Actually, we are emphasizing that data is the new soil. It is not the data itself, but the intelligence you cultivate from it that defines the harvest of a knowledge economy. These are some of the reasons why we are greening, and just to highlight, it's about cost efficiency. As you know that the traditional method, pen and paper, is paper intensive, and it also involves so many operational costs. Then again, as we green, we are able to get AI-driven insights, speed and agility in our assessments, as well as strengthening our security and integrity. Then again, with greening of assessments, we'll be able to ensure accessibility and reach. For instance, with our remote marking and also online training, like we have been undertaking with our examiners. Then data intelligence. Every click, mark, and decision is captured, creating rich analytics for policy, decisions, examiner, calibration, and quality assurance. Generally, we just ask you to innovate together with us, green together, so that we can assess smarter. We are leveraging ICT for assessment intelligence. And just to emphasize, NEC's commitment has already been, it has already committed itself. We have already embraced the green agenda as a strategic pillar, positioning teacher education as a flagship model for fully digital end-to-end assessment ecosystem in Kenya. We are also rolling out, we have actually been rolling out the ecosystem to other assessments. It's not only teacher education, just that teacher education is leading in this. Then why we focus on this sub-theme and also our title, it's because